All right. Okay, folks, we're gonna get started with our panel here. Before we do, and as folks come to their seats, I'll go ahead and introduce our three panelists. So to my left here, and moving over, we have Rucha Fule, who's Vice President Data. Rucha is a seasoned data leader with over 20 years experience across a diverse set of industries, currently head of data at Confluent, leading analytics, data science, data engineering, BI, and internal AI teams. She leads a team of data scientists and engineers building Confluent's internal data platform, driving insights and predictive models to drive business outcomes and building internal AI tools for improved productivity. Welcome, Rucha. And then we have Neil Garapi, VP of Engineering and Security at Airship. Neil has built his career at the intersection of engineering and security, working from the idea that both are equally important for success. Definitely agree with that. For over 20 years, he's focused on building strong engineering teams, leading them through major tech projects, played a key role in a wide range of areas, from M&A deals and security certifications to data center build-outs and deploying new cloud services. And then, last but certainly not least, we have Lee Patrick McIntyre from Onix. Took a unique path to the world of cloud tech, a Bay Area native with an art degree, all right? And his passions for all things tech led him to become a leader in preparing companies for the future of AI and machine learning, and has 15 years of experience working at innovative companies like Canoe, Goop, and Media Arts Lab, and now works as a head of delivery and cloud native architect at Onix, helping businesses like yourselves transform their workloads on Google Cloud. Awesome. So did I miss anything? All right, sounds good. Great. Well, let's start with a conversation around strategic AI vision and prioritization. So maybe, Rucha, if you want to kick us off, could you share the overarching strategic vision for how analytics and AI are driving innovation within your respective organization? What are some key business objectives you aim to achieve with these technologies? And how do you go about prioritizing which analytics and AI ML projects to pursue, especially given all the possibilities?
I think I'll remember all those questions. So I'll come back to it if I don't.
I can go back, yeah.
All right, for those of you who don't know, Confluent is actually a data platform. It's a streaming data platform that allows you to collect, govern, process all of your data real time. So we are very much at the heart of the data ecosystem. Being at the heart of data ecosystem, we are very much thoughtful, mindful about where we are going with AI. So some of the use cases, I think all of you probably are familiar. Everyone's thinking about how do we make customer service easier? How do we make sure internal IT tickets can be done easily? So that's one area, sort of the obvious use cases. We're also thinking fairly broadly, thinking outside of just productivity gains, right? So one area is just pure productivity gains. How else do we make our entire company more data-driven? And that's a slightly different flavor than what you probably hear about when you think about AI use cases. And we've built an internal tool called Account AI. We actually have streaming data, live data from all of our customers across multiple systems, from customer Zendesk tickets, from are they spinning up new clusters? Are they getting stuck somewhere? Are new users onboarding? All of that data is live streamed into an internal app, so anytime you pull up a customer, you have up to the minute information about what's going on with that customer. So when you think about overall strategy, let me zoom out a little bit. One is the obvious customer service, IT, internal productivity. For data analysts, data scientists, we're using a lot of coding assistant tools. That's one area of focus for us. And then the other is, how do we actually leapfrog some of this trying to piece information together to get insights, to drive the next best action? How do we piece it all together in a way that feels intuitive, driven by AI, and really move beyond just productivity gain? So that's how we are thinking about AI.
Awesome. Interesting. Okay. Moving on. If you want to answer this, or I can maybe add a little twist to it.
Both.
Both. Yeah.
Same question, but a little twist.
Yeah. Just beyond the tech itself, what are some ways that what are some of the ways you're thinking about the business transformation you're actually aiming for with data and AI as like a North Star, for example?
Cool. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Airships is a digital experience platform. So marketing teams, engineering teams drop our SDK in their mobile apps, and we help with scenes, journeys, message delivery, push notification, all the channels, email, SMS, all that sort of thing. We do, just to give you scale, like we do over 3 billion messages on like an average day. So it's pretty heavy volume, all in GCP, which is great. From a product side, so all of those messages going out to all of our customers, and then come back in for analytics. We're obviously gathering a lot of data. So that's kind of the areas within the product we're starting to push on some AI things. Everybody's digital footprint and mobile footprint is getting bigger. It's really kind of what you are and what you do on the web, and all, our customers want to use that to give everybody a personalized experience on their phone. That's what keeps you coming back. That determines what apps you use and what apps you don't use, right? So Nike's a customer. They want to get data that is individual to each of you, right? Like, I'm from Boston. If they show me a Yankees hat, I'm deleting the app. If they send me a push with the Red Sox hat, I'm going to click on it, right? And so they want to use AI to get all that data that's coming back in about which campaigns work, which do not, which customers are clicking, which are not, to get everybody's digital experience much more specific to them. So there's a lot of, their analytics teams, the marketing team, they all want that. They all want, there's the obvious use cases too, where they want some generative AI to like, they describe what they want the push to look like, and then it just shows up and they can say yes or no. Second part of your question and kind of your twist, right? So internally, kind of where we're going with the data and trying to enhance our teams and what they can do is, one of the big pushes for us is sort of unifying all our internal data sources, right? So we're a workspace shop, we're Salesforce, Zendesk, Atlassian, right? In trying to get all of those, an answer to a question from all of those systems in one place is sort of what our kind of big picture North Star AI, internal AI kind of big goal is right now, or has been, right? Like your customer support teams, if they've got an agent, right, or a model that can talk to all those systems, and you say, how's Nike been the last 30 days, right? Like your support team has their answers, your AM team when they're trying to upsell them or they're going into contract negotiations, your engineers if they've had any bugs. So something like that could be really powerful. So that's kind of our guiding principle for like what we're trying to do big picture internally. And there's a lot of smaller things we can talk about later that come with that.
Great, thank you. So Lee Patrick, I'd love to get your take on the same question, but obviously in your current role, you're coming from an outside-in perspective, which is really interesting. It's gonna, you get to see a lot more customers at play. So same question, and also like, how do you get leaders at those companies to view AI not just as a tool, but as a truly core component of a competitive strategy?
Yeah. So again, for those who might not know, Onix is Google Cloud Partner of the Year 14 times, I think now. And last year, I think we got 2, one for data analytics, one for telecommunications. We work with 20% of the Fortune 500, have over 1,500 customers globally. So we get to see a very wide array of customers and use cases. I think a big part of our viewpoint is seeing different challenges from different companies, and sometimes a hesitation for adoption. It's a big challenge a lot of companies see to try and take on this AI, and how do we use it within our business. Our viewpoint is more to try to set businesses up for our customers as a AI first business. So exercise that muscle, build that muscle so that you're consistently putting out different use cases. Keep going. Even if 1/3 of the use cases end up being successful, you're getting massive acceleration and you're getting to exercise that muscle. So it's not a, should we do this? It's a when and how are we gonna do this, right? And I think that's a really big focus of ours, is to continue to build that within our customers. And that all builds on top of, again, the unified architecture we've been discussing, being able to consolidate, the data into say BigQuery as your data warehouse, your silo, and then you can build on all of that natively.
Okay. All right, let's move on to culture and responsibility with AI. And so obviously, and I think we've even heard in some of your responses, implementing AI, definitely or successfully requires some organizational change. So again, maybe back to you, Rucha. How are you fostering sort of a data-driven culture and helping and guiding your teams towards building the necessary skills to be able to accept this?
Yeah, I think there's, when I think broadly, there's two camps of people when it comes to AI in what I'm observing. One is super excited. I want to try every tool. I want to download every model out there from Hugging Face, and I want to do everything myself. And then there's another one which is super skeptical. It's like, I don't want to touch this. You're disrupting my workflows. People are going to get let go. Stay out of my business, right? Even internally, even within Confluent. The thing to win over the skeptics is to really build a foundation of trust. There's a lot of skepticism, rightfully so, in one camp.
When you say trust in the data or trust?
Both.
Both.
Trust in the data and trust in the solutions you're building for them, right? I'll give you an example of customer service. First use case, everyone's super excited about it, caters to both camps of users, so those who are very excited, those who are very skeptical. What we found is the foundation has to be trustworthy, well-governed data within the company for any use case to begin with. The second thing is to actually start small, do smaller things, do incremental things, and show the value as you go along, because I think the technology is evolving fast. There is rightfully a lot of skepticism, but also we've got to earn trust. We've got to build on smaller things eventually to get to that big AI vision. So the way we've actually, North Star culturally, how we are thinking about it, is how do we build this foundation of trustworthy data, bringing all the sources together, making them fully governed, making sure everyone's looking at the right data sets to answer the right questions. And then on top of that, slowly start building incrementally in how you're developing your AI apps, so that as you're rolling this out in the organization, you're bringing everyone along. And those who are overexcited also have some guardrails to work with. And those who are skeptical, you're actually bringing them along saying, hey, there is a use case here. This is really actually beneficial to you. We are trying to help you. That's the North Star. So when you're thinking of culture, I think it's important to start small, bring people along, have smaller wins, build on top of those smaller wins, instead of trying to this big vision and let's all get to that big vision right away. I think it's going to take time. I think we've got to win people over as well.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, boiling the ocean is not always the right approach, right? I think small wins, milestones, and getting people there makes a lot of sense. Neil, at Airship, can you talk a little bit about how you're, empowering users with these types of guardrails to make sure that there's trust both in the solution as well as in the data itself?
Yeah, and everything Rucha just said, like we ran into the same thing and have been trying to address it. And everything. I just want to kind of build on what she said, because I don't know that I can say it any better, but we had an exec offsite May-ish, and I had everybody come with, my thing was, what is making your teams and your organizations reluctant to use AI? And like the four big things were, I'm scared I'm not technical enough. All this stuff feels like beta. I don't have time to do this with my job. And I forget, they were all that, right? So, okay, we have to address these things because we're going to fall behind internally. Like we felt sort of behind even for the models were then, right? And some people hadn't checked their priors from a year ago when the models weren't as good as they are now. So it was just go back in. But we implemented some programs sort of internally to help do that. We have a weekly half-hour all company thing for anybody that can attend, that somebody comes and demos something them and their team are doing with AI, right? So here's some tools out there, here's some of the tools we have, make those more public. We did a really cool thing yesterday where we had anybody that was doing something in their personal life, not work related, cool with AI, like just come talk about it to get people feel more comfortable, right? And people showed up with like, here's how I find activities for my kids on the weekend, and here's how I just list everything in my fridge and AI spits out a recipe, right? So just getting people more comfortable with it, for kind of the reluctant people. On the like, how do we make it part of our job? We kind of went away, all the VPs, and to look at what tools can help me. What can I get a few people using so that 6 months from now we can say this is part of our job. This is required for the job. Like, it's good enough. It's helping people go faster. It's helping people be more efficient. And so like when we get back together, there'll be kind of a list of those things, and like they will make it part of certain teams' jobs. One other thing I think is really important that, especially internally, I'm sure some of you are seeing, if you not, you will get there when you start to build internal tools, is the cleanliness of your internal data is really important. As you, like I said, we're trying to connect a bunch of systems, and as you turn a model or models on these things, if your data sucks, your teams are going to get bad answers and they're not going to go back to it. Our Salesforce instance is like over 10 years old and has not had much love and feeding. And right now, honestly, like AI is useless for it because like it assumes that data is correct. So as you go through these processes and you want to get trust internally, like I think people are going to learn, like, and this was a theme in the world like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, a big thing, like, but like cleaning your data, having a clean source of data to get the answers from is super important.
Yeah, it may look like magic, but it's not. AI learns from data, similarly to how we do. If we're reading, something that makes no sense, and that's all we've ever read, but we're gonna have conversations that make no sense, right? So, Lee Patrick, again, from that outside in perspective, we hear a lot of data governance, right? So you need data governance, everyone wants to talk about AI. No one wants to talk about data governance because AI is exciting and data governance sounds really boring, right? How do you bring your customers that you're working with to get their teams to think about the importance of that?
Yeah, I think Neil touched on this quite a bit, but like getting good answers is very important for adoption, right? Executive sponsorship's important, but getting people hands-on is going to get them actually to want to engage with it. If they get bad answers, they're not going to want to come back, as Neil said. A lot of times going into the governance conversation, again, very native to the platforms that Google provides, which is very good for us, is providing that lineage tracking. And you're able to then trace back where did that answer come from, right? And you see this in certain products like Gemini or Notebook LM, where it will actually give you citations of the data sources. Right. And I think that's very important at a business level to be able to come back, trace that down, and build that trust as you were talking about. I think the other side of it is, again, show, don't tell. Get people hands-on. Let them see what other people are doing and give them the opportunity to do it, whether, again, you're just doing demos of what you do in your personal life. We have a customer, a large healthcare customer, and we worked with their nurses to work with conversational analytics against different patient visits to be able to get the information they wanted out of that. And when we got them hands-on in some workshops through that process, they built a lot of confidence in the system and became very excited, and they loved the solution, right? So it's really like getting people hands-on is going to be your first thing that really locks them into wanting to continue to use it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I have one quick thing?
Of course.
Just something LP said in the data governance thing. Another thing, like I don't want to give us too much credit, but at Airship, we kind of did just accidentally early in this whole thing was formed a cross-functional committee to approve internal AI usage. So it's like me, our head of legal, somebody from the internal systems teams, a couple other, to like be a kind of clearinghouse / vetting group for when people want to use a tool, right? So they submit a form, we look at it, we make sure from a security and data privacy perspective, it's okay for all use, just for like non-customer data, like no good at all, just so that when people are using tools or doing POCs, they feel like if something works, it's going to be okay, and they're not going to be told to stop after the fact. And I think it's important, like, there's some great tools out there. I'm sure you've all seen some not great tools that can run amok in your internal system if they get out there. So it was something we sort of accidentally did early, but like when I talk about it in front of other groups or talk to other people, like they either are doing the same thing and like that's a great idea, or they're like, oh no, we should do that. And I think that's one of the things, if you don't have it, you should really get it internally, because it really helps the process and everybody feel comfortable, and your customers feel good if they come asking questions.
One question I have related to this is, as you try to increase adoption, have you seeked out champions that can help you with that within different orgs, or have they emerged on their own? Like, have you seen that? Like, what's some of your experience there?
Yeah, we certainly have, internally and with our customers, right? Internally, just like everybody else, we have people who are really excited and people who are a little hesitant. I think early on, and we've built that through those champions, again, demos, show, don't tell, like we keep building that practice, and it really makes like a business experience built around what your business does and how it can use these tools is really critical. It makes that trust, again, in the platform. And I think back to what Neil was saying about like building, like, hey, can we get the compliance around these tools? One of the things we found is it becomes very easy with the integrated platform, because you have assured workloads, you have VPC service controls, you have all these different compliance frameworks already built into the platform, which makes making that decision a lot easier and gets those people engaged.
Awesome.
The only thing I'll add is, like, think of security governance as your friends, not your foes in this. A lot of people are very like, oh, well, I don't want to go through, and I'm sure you have a lot more experience in that, but I don't want to go through a security clearance to get another tool, and now this seems like so much work. I think if you get them involved, for sure in our case, if you get them involved early on, they've been big proponents of actually, let's use AI. Our legal team actually uses AI tool to get through a bunch of red lines pretty fast on contracts. They've been big proponents. They've been super collaborators for us. So unsurprisingly, they are great, but you wouldn't think of them as champions early on.
Right.
And I think that's actually been a pretty large unlock for us. It's not just the users, it's the ecosystem being set up and using them as champions for your initiatives.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, finding your legal team in AI Win is actually huge. Like they have a tool that like they love, and they treat the agent like a member of like they even wrote like a performance review for it and sent it to the company. So that's important. I think, and this kind of goes back to that idea of like a group that's kind of oversight of what tools are being used. Try or if it makes sense to kind of keep things in the same ecosystem, that can make things easier for approve, and then you don't get duplicate tools. This has been an area where like Google has like just been awesome for us, because we're a Google shop, right? Both Workspace and GCP for our customers. So once
That's the dream.
right, and I'm not being paid or getting any credits for saying this, and I will certainly point out where like Google isn't great, but this like it's once our legal team understood that when you use Gemini, whether it's in Workspace or whether it's in GCP, like everything is staying within Google. It was sort of like a rubber stamp for anything you want to do with Gemini or Vertex within Airship, which is like awesome, because there's so many things you can point people at to like Vertex, has all the models but one, right? So like you can't say like I don't have the model to do this thing internally or with the product. Like it's there. Go, like you can use it as much as you want. Do point at whatever, like it's all fine. So I think finding kind of those ecosystems and making sure you can use those so you don't have to keep introducing, every new thing that comes out is helpful. And then back to your champion question real quick. Unexpected internal champions are like my favorite. Like
Right.
we have this one woman, I don't know what her job was a year ago. Her name is Jenny, and she sort of like dove into like the AI stuff and the Vertex and the Google, and she went to all like these trainings. She wasn't in a technical role, and like I'm in the process of bringing her over to be like a data scientist now, because she's like she just preaches it and she loves it, and like those stories are great. And when people hear that, they're like, oh, I can learn a little too. It made Jenny's job go better. Like I bet I can find some more. So like really find your internal champions in like expected and unexpected place and put them in front of people.
That's fantastic. Love that. Love that story. Got to meet Jenny. Where's we have how much more time? We got about, I think we got time for at least another question. A lot of AI projects, kick off, like they kind of start in a lab, and then a lot of them fizzle out. Some make it through. I'm assuming you've all had that experience. I'd love to sort of hear from you. What is that linchpin, that critical success factor that sort of allows these projects to make it past just a POC or a pilot into actual production? What have you found has been one of the key things there? You want to start, Rucha?
I think the biggest thing is expect failure, right? It's really, it's overambitious to think we're going to go out with this new technology as it's evolving, adopt it, come up with use cases, come up with a solution, and then actually hit it out of the ballpark the first time. It's almost impossible, not going to happen. So I think just making sure everyone understands that this is going to be a little bit of a trial and error. It is going to be incremental, and as we learn, as we figure out where we are not doing such a great job for the use cases that we are solving, we will keep improving. We'll keep iterating. So that's one. Two, I think making sure your data can be trusted, it's governed, right? Like give people a playground, let them work with it. So it just makes the whole ecosystem work a lot more efficiently if you've got that playground really well set up. Get exec sponsors, but also be clear with execs that it is going to take time and there is going to be some failure on the way. So I think just setting realistic expectations, building it incrementally, I think that's the way to succeed.
Yeah, fail often, fail fast, and you'll get to where you need to get to. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, you say everything I want to say, but more articulately. But I would say, proper expectations in sort of baby steps for some of these new technologies and ideas that come out. Right, like for a while now, right? Everybody's been hearing agentic, right? And we'll get there just like we got there with models. But if you think about your lives, work, home, whatever, like how many agentic things are really delivering on what you think they're going to be in their head. Like when I think about it work, like we got some people who use Cursor pretty well. There's like one other thing, but it's just kind of there, right? And so when the CEO hears this, knows this train is coming, it's like, we got to get agentic into the product. Like, Neil, go build me some agentic on ADK, right? And it's like, well, let's get one agent that does something super useful for customers first, and then we'll get a full agentic system, right? So for us, because we're a marketing tool, right, we have a brand guideline agent, which is pretty cool. Like every customer, if they want, they update their brand guidelines, right? So if you don't know brand guidelines, if you're Nike, you would update some guidelines, and so that it would catch if anybody accidentally refers to something as Adidas or whatever the case might be, right? So you can now upload that into Airship, and there's an agent that pays attention to all your content and checks it against those brand guidelines and will alert you if something doesn't match, a color doesn't match, we don't use this image, we don't say this word, whatever the case may be. That's it's like spell check, but for content. And that's a really good kind of tiptoe into an agent that everybody can use. It doesn't move the needle too much, but it's a baby step. We know how to build and ship agents, and now we can do more of that in more complicated ways.
Awesome. Yeah. And helping customers with POCs. I mean, how do they get them into production? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think definitely, like you mentioned, executive sponsorship super important, and that solid data foundation. Those are non-negotiables. You've got to get those out the door, or you're kind of starting on the wrong foot. But then beyond that is kind of going back to build that muscle, build a framework or a factory of producing these agents. And your first step is assessment. What use cases do you have that are highly suitable to some AI agentic development? Often document processing, great use case, right? Maybe you have 100 different workflows, but that's the low-hanging fruit you can do very easily, very well. And then that helps get that baby steps started to get the process in your business, get people comfortable. And as you've done that, what we've been working with our customers is building, again, that factory around this so that we know how to continually keep pumping out new agents for the customer, right, based on the different use cases. And again, starting from easiest, working up to hardest. And that way, by the time you're getting to those really complex ones that have a higher, chance of failure, you really have a lot of buy-in from the business, and a lot of people are already, there's tons of value already provided. I think that's a really core focus for us is, again, building just that factory mindset of keep pumping these out for you.
I like that, the factory mindset. Well, I think with that, we'd like to actually open it up to the audience to ask questions. We've got mics that we can pass around, so this is your opportunity to ask questions of our guests here. Anybody want to go first? We'll just choose someone to ask a question. Come on, somebody's got to have a question. Oh. All right, there you go.
Hi, I'm Shitali. I work in Google Cloud. I'm a rep, so that might speak to my question. Thank you so much. Just as enterprises who are dipping toes into low risk, quick proving out kind of internal AI use cases, how is the exec mindset around funding these? Because I'm guessing it's chicken and egg, right? Like you don't want to overinvest in a fail fast and let's still prove kind of thing. So some thoughts around that.
Yeah, I think from our perspective is if you're starting, again, with kind of that AI first factory mindset, you say, hey, we have 100 use cases. If even only 30% of these succeed, here's the value we can provide to the business. And that usually gets the executive buy-in because they see that value alone as worth the effort to start and get through some of those, again, low-hanging fruit, easy concept POCs, and then start working towards the more difficult because they know that they're getting that value back right away.
Yeah, right now internally, if you have a thing you want to use that can make your team go a little faster, you almost kind of have a blank check if it's within reach. We just want to find ways that teams can go faster if it makes sense. Again, the good news is a lot of this is done through Google and Gemini, which we have a site license for, so it actually doesn't cost that much more. But like there's some like salesy tools things and SDR tools that they're coming up with that they want to use that are reasonably priced, and again it's going to make our go-to-market motion go faster. So like I use my judgment in like anything that is insane. We go and we talk to the finance team, but it's pretty, or you can usually do a good job and find where it's actually going to save you eventually. Like we've had instances where somebody can show like, I won't have to hire this role and like it's half the price, so let's do it. And I'm just to be clear, I'm not advocating like everybody should go fire everybody and hire like AI. Like that's not how AI is going to work. Like I realize that, but like giving people the tools so that like when you actually do hire, now that all these tools are in place, we think is super important.
I have a slightly different take. We've actually assembled a team internally right now. So our application engineering team, which was part of business systems, that's the team actually that's been at the center of building these AI internal applications and use cases. So I wouldn't say it's fully funded. It actually was like an assembled team internally, and we started to do the work. We've seen, already 25% of our internal IT tickets are now being taken care of by AI. So as we are beginning to see those green shoots, now we are beginning to invest more in terms of adding humans and engineers to this. But initial set of people who've actually come this far was our existing data science, machine learning, and application engineering team. So it was actually a pretty small team that started this, but it's getting bigger. So.
Thank you. So it seems like it's a mix of like a constant ROI, TCO evaluation by the COE or a scrappy, let's get started team. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, we got one right there.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I run engineering and material security. So the question is about developing product features, right? Just based on your experience, do you feel like efforts around leveraging AI for product features are best when are product-led, are engineering-led, like broadly software engineering, or machine learning-led, and why?
So just to clarify, you're talking about like making the decision of which products to start with delivering?
I meant less from a strategic perspective, but like let's say we discover an opportunity. So it's like, hey, like we should extend our product to try to fill this adjacent need, right? Yep. And it's becoming clear that we should leverage what you just talked about, some agentic approach or whatnot, right? Given how so much is available off the shelf now, it doesn't have to be a machine learning engineer, per se, right? Like leading the charge. So is it best when kind of like the person kind of holding the mic for that conversation for that project is product, engineering broadly, or still machine learning?
Yeah, I think it's, in my mind, it's kind of a paired thing, right? You're going to have product leading, I think, the goal, right? What's the input? Like, if you're just having a conversation with Gemini, you're going to have somebody creating that prompt. That's product saying, here's the parameters, here's what we want to work towards, right? And then from there, you can use the tooling, right? I often think of this, and this is something I work with a lot of customers on, is building a software engineering as a practice using AI within their business. Because it's one thing to hand the engineering team or the product team the tool. It's another thing to train them how to use the tool, right? And so building that practice within your business, I think, is actually the most important part of this. It's got to be unique and specific to what your business is and what your goals are. And then, you can get to that next phase of actually creating a lot of product from that. But I think, if you handed me a circular saw today, I'm not going to become a carpenter. I need somebody to show me how to use that saw, right? And I think that's really key. And this is something we've done with some customers where we've helped them build that practice within their business.
Yeah, we're still, we've always been sort of product led, and we're still trying to be, but with the AI stuff, the ML stuff, the agent stuff, it's a little more the more senior engineers are sort of in the weeds still of trying to figure that out and set proper expectations. Again, we can't go build. We got to get one agent out, right? And that requires us to build, and then we got to go work with the infrastructure team to figure out how we can deploy this and keep it secure. If you haven't, none of you've seen this yet, one of the things my senior engineers are currently loving right now is that product has decided they can just send them an image that Lovable created and say, do this, and that's the whole product spec. So we're running into a little bit of that right now, but otherwise we're still letting we're like, okay, can you describe that a little more and keep doing the product briefs, please?
I'll just preface my answer by saying we are a fairly technical company. It is a data infrastructure company, so everyone in the company is actually fairly well versed with this. I don't know if there's a right answer between product, machine learning, I think it comes from all sides. Bunch of our ideas have come from application engineering. Bunch of our ideas have come actually from product. Our CPO is very much, one of those guys who are very enthusiastic about AI. So I don't know if it's, I think the lines between these things are also blurring. If you ask my data team, there's a lot of them who think of themselves as engineers. There's a lot of them who actually think of themselves as product owners. So it's sort of blurred.
Okay, good question. Thank you. Any other questions?
Quick
got one
question.
right here.
As you've talked about, particularly when you talked about the people who brought stuff from home to that they use and stuff, it seems to me like the spectrum is around high stakes and low stakes. And none of you mentioned that, but there's some things that are low stakes, like what's in my refrigerator and what's a good recipe. Well, who cares? And just that it gets you thinking about it. I'm curious if any of you use that kind of filter on the stakes, because it seems like the way to get experience with agentic is to have these low stakes things, see what works and doesn't, and then build from there.
I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is probably the number one filter that you use to figure out how you're going to adopt this new thing. I'll give you an example within our company. All the things I mentioned actually are internal focused, are internal customer focused, right? It's the SDRs, it's the AEs, it's execs, it's different personas within the company. We are building a tool that's end user focused, so taking away ticket creation and actually answering questions in a conversational fashion. That's in beta. The stakes are really high. You can get it wrong. It has to be highly governed data. We cannot give them the runaround, right? And the customer is interacting with you maybe once, hopefully once in their entire life cycle. You don't want to ruin that, right? That interaction. Very high stakes, very high bar, no hallucinations, right? We got to do solid QA checks, lots of things on the back end that need to happen before we allow for that. We are working on it, but I think it's the number one question you ask first. It's like, is this going to the end user? And I think those use cases are, at least in my experience, and I worked at Chime before here, even there we were experimenting with it, but it wasn't there, not ready for end customer, and that is because it was very high stakes.
Yeah, I would say it's sort of all low stakes right now, at least what we're doing, right? Like, and it's the, like I said, that brand guideline thing, generating content. Somebody's going to say, yeah, that's what I want to push, right? But as there's more agents working together, it becomes higher stakes, right? Because like you can still have somebody saying yes, but it's at the end of what like 4 agents did, like, and you got to make sure it's somebody's doing the right thing, and you have the right sort of checks and balances in place. Like we've had one customer who came to us one time and was like, hey, why did my employee see this image? And I was like, I don't know, go ask Google. Like, right. So like and it's, there's been a lot of work with our legal team to get our like MSA in place to handle all these things as we do it. If any of you have European customers you're dealing with, it's like a whole different game. They're much more strict. So like the policies and regulations are going to change, and what people are going to do are going to get like more high stakes. So it's going to be super interesting, right? Like it's how, like, the further we get away from having a human check every step, I think the higher stakes it gets. And like we're preparing for that, but I don't think we fully know when we're going to like be like, okay, this is high stake. Like we'll get there, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I think you're talking about low stakes, high stakes. I think those are two ends on the same scale, because I've done, obviously low stakes, some simple document analysis, or like, hey, what's my schedule look like next week kind of thing, right? At the same time, I previously worked in automotive connected vehicles. That's very high stakes, right? We did on-vehicle training stuff that like, you can't get that wrong. We were working with NASA and the US Army. It's like, had to be perfect, right? And I think that's where a lot of your governance control comes in. Again, I think what was mentioned earlier was really good, was that like governance shouldn't be this big scary thing you want to avoid. It's the enabler. It's what actually helps you get to the point where you can trust those high stake things. And I think that's very, very key to all of this. Once you get to that point, you still have that scale, you still need to weigh, but you feel much more confident having done some of those low stake things and proving out the governance to start taking on some of those higher stake options.
Yeah, great question. Anybody else? Nope, there you go.
How's it going? First of all, thank you guys for sharing all your knowledge. I'm an intern at Netscope, so my question is, what are your takes on data security and AI, and what are the challenges? More specifically, do you think AI automation for data security is trustworthy and optimal?
So I'll go backwards here. Like for data security, yes, but I will say, thinking about my security team, like there's not a ton of good security enabled AI tool, or the other way around. Like standard security tools are proving to be a little bit slower adding AI, and like they'll get there, but like if you're in security, like the bad guys are always a step ahead, right? Like there was just the other day, they found the first ransomware attack that was like totally run by AI, and you didn't even need to be online, right? So like, I'm sure like the phishing is getting insane. It's really, really good. Like it's fun to be the bad guys. So like the tools will get better. Splunk has some good things if that's your SIM. There's a few others out there, but like I'll honestly, like we haven't gotten as far as we'd like to in terms of adding AI to our security team, but like we'll get there. We'll spend some time on it. In terms of the AI data, your data being secure with AI, I think you've just got to treat it like you would your normal data, right? Like, so if your normal data layer is secure, your AI data should be too, but you've got to make sure that you're using APIs or using reputable models or checking them. Again, this is another example. Like we have we're in BigQuery, Bigtable, we use Vertex. And so like, luckily Google handles a lot of that for us. But like, I wouldn't want to be in the business without a really large team of like rolling your own models and making sure they're doing the right thing. So I think using sort of the foundational models from a good vendor right now really gets you like 90 to 95% where you need to be. Assuming, you have a good data security layer to start from.
I think piggybacking on what you're saying is like the hosting through Vertex provides a lot of this, right? They have the different controls and different training layers where you don't have to worry about like your custom training, modifying the core model that you're working with. I think we're going to see over the next few years a lot of issues with people running their own open local models even on their laptop, right? And somebody's going to inject something terrible is going to happen from that. So that's where like being able to trust where you're executing your models and how they're accessing your data, I think those are critical pieces. And again, like we have that structure today with Vertex, which is key, right? I think that piece alone is going to give you a lot of sense of comfort in the security. I think the other piece that you have to be very careful with is your model's reference to the source data and making sure that it's the right audience, right? You may have, let's say you have a set of documents and this group can access some of those documents, this group can access some. I think Agent Space is a good example where it actually uses the source permissions to surface the results to you as a user. And I think that's another key piece is making sure that the model's replying to you based on who you are and what you have access to instead of just blanket responding.
Yeah, that's just a really good point with that last thing. For your internal data sources, right? Like make sure if you're uniting systems or data, like make sure your OAuth is strong between those systems and that they're test and make sure that it's respecting the permissions, right? Because you don't want everybody to see the same docs that the CEO has or everybody have the same view on Salesforce that the CFO has. So whatever you use, whether it's Gemini, whether it's OpenAI to tie those systems together, make sure that, the OAuth flows down to all those systems.
Okay, great. Well, these were some great questions. Thank you to our panelists for joining us. Appreciate it. It's always great to hear, from folks who are experiencing this in real life. So, thank you for doing that. Lunch now, Gennady, or there it wasn't on the screen. So before I let you all go to lunch, really quick. So you might have some questions depending where you are on the spectrum, right? You might be on one end, you're just starting, you're just thinking about this. Here are some interesting ways to get started. I would say the Google Data to AI assessment should be first, but for those of you that are really at the inception of this, at the genesis of this, you're just starting to think about things, this is actually a really good way, very simple way. It's a Google-led assessment that evaluates your AI data, and we do it against industry benchmarks. We've actually built it all, using a lot of our own capabilities and LLMs. And you'll get a report that tells you where you are against industry benchmarks, right? And how ready your data is to take the AI journey. And then we do a quick readout session, and then we can discuss next steps from there. So I think that's a really good way for those of you that are just starting, right? Hey, am I ready? Is my data ready? It's a great way to do it. Very little time invested, and you'll get some definitely benefits out of it. Next, we have the Cloud Solution Accelerator Workshop, which is also known as the Seesaw. So this is, you've made the decision. You want to definitely go into this. Maybe you've done the assessment. Your data's ready. Now you want to know, there's just, again, low stakes, high stakes. What should I implement, right? So this, we'll bring in a dedicated team from Google, and we'll help you synthesize your ideas and prioritize, right, and stack rank what you should probably work on first based on whether it's the value, the stakes involved, the value to your business, the value to your customers, and so on. So that's another one. And then, of course, with our partners, in this case, Onix, they do have a data and AI acceleration lab, which again helps you evolve into this new world of AI and the processes that go with it. So some great options here to get started. You have help all along the way. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk to your Google team or your Onix team to do that. Okay. Good. All right. I think now we all get to go eat, and then we come back for the practitioner session. So, all right. Thank you.